Henry Novak was an innocent 18-year-old boy walking down the street in England when he was randomly attacked by another man who stabbed Henry in the chest. That man then called the police and told him he had had an altercation with a white man who had attacked him for being a Sikh. The police arrived and they handcuffed Henry while he bled to death. Protests have broken out across Britain as a people battered and bruised by mass migration find their voices. They began when police allowed a young white man to bleed to death while they held him in handcuffs. The perpetrator used the racist excuse, of course.
So on the night of December 3rd, 2025, a man called Henry Nowak, he's an 18-year-old university student, was walking back from a bar. He was totally sober. Blood tests later showed that his blood alcohol content was lower than drunk driving. So he was sober. Walking in the other direction was a man called Vikram Digwa. He's a 23-year-old Brit, a Sikh. His family's from India, walking with his brother. Now, there was no apparent confrontation between the two. And then, almost out of nowhere, Digwa pulls out an 8-inch long knife and begins stabbing Henry Nowak, the 18-year-old college student, and ultimately kills him. Stabbed him 5 times, including in the chest and the heart.
Mate, been stabbed. You've been stabbed? Whereabouts? Don't think you have, mate.
Sickening body cam footage shows British cops handcuffing a dying student who had been stabbed with a ceremonial Sikh knife after his killer accused the white victim of racism.
Now, it's worth noting that knife crime in England is famously on the rise. In fact, to such an extent that knives are difficult for ordinary people to buy in London. Try to buy a set of kitchen knives next time you're over there. Not so easy. You can do it, but it's heavily regulated. British citizens are not allowed to carry 8-inch long knives. White British citizens are not allowed to, but Sikhs are, because under British law, carrying a knife is allowed because of the Sikh religious exemption. Sikhs have argued in court, and their lobby groups have argued that they should be allowed to carry knives, and so they can. So again, in modern Britain, whites are not allowed to carry weapons, Sikhs are. And in this case, a Sikh used his legal weapon to murder a young white man.
Video from the scene, which has sparked fury in the UK, shows Henry Novak, 18, repeatedly telling police officers, "I can't breathe," after being stabbed with an 8-inch blade in an unprovoked attack in Southampton, southern England. His killer, 23-year-old Vikram Digwa, falsely claimed that Novak had racially abused him, with cops taking the murderer's side when they arrived.
Grabbed my brother, he took my turban off, started grabbing my head.
Are you injured?
Yeah, I've got swollen eye, little bruise.
Alright, just step back a little bit for me. Someone flag these down.
Police were called to the scene by Digwa's brother, who reported that Novak had carried out a racist attack.
He's verbally attacked my brother racially. He's attacked my brother and took his turban off. Then he's recorded it on his phone thinking he was going to do something. So I need someone here ASAP, please.
Now, it's not clear how long this man has been in the UK. He may have been born there. From his accent, it sounds like he was, but he's from a family of immigrants. But he's been there long enough to know that in the West, in 2026, racism is the ultimate crime. In fact, it's literally worse than murder. And so he tells police dispatch, this man, this white man, this random white man, as he describes him, just walked up, started hurling racial abuse at him, knocked his turban off his head, and punched him. And the police take that very, very seriously. So they sped to the scene.
Got this stud.
Right, let's get you out of there, shall we?
Mate, this stud.
You've been stabbed? Whereabouts? Don't think you have, mate.
Meanwhile, the murderer's mother also came to the scene. She arrived before the police did, and she took the murder weapon and hid it. She brought it home with her and didn't tell anybody that she had it. In other words, she participated in the cover-up. Now, the police arrived fairly quickly to find Henry Nowak bleeding and unable to stand on his own. He said to them a total of 8 times, "I have been stabbed. I'm dying. I can't breathe." He yelled it so loud that neighbors heard it. In fact, some of them called the police to say there's a man who's been stabbed and is dying. Nevertheless, police treated Henry Nowak, the dying man who was bleeding out in their presence, like the criminal because he had been accused of racism. So they handcuffed him. They dragged him through the gravel. They ignored his plea for help. I'm dying. Doesn't look like that, like you're dying. I've been stabbed. Don't think so, mate, says the cop.
And?
I can't breathe.
Put the hand in the cuff, mate.
Yeah.
This is like
can't breathe.
times this has happened to us. You've been walking your park.
Please, brother, I can't breathe.
Yeah.
Should we
Keep you on your side, mate. You better retrieve then.
Say again.
Saying to him, keeping him on his side. Mate.
Digwa, who said he carried the blade because of his Sikh faith, was sentenced to a minimum of 21 years to life in prison.
In Great Britain, when you receive a life sentence with a minimum of 21 years, that means that this man will be facing a parole board after 21 years. And in Great Britain, you have about a 1 in 4 chance of receiving that parole. So within 4 or 5 parole meetings, this man will more than likely have his freedom before 30 years. It's insane to me that in Great Britain, it's not against the law for Sikh men to carry their ceremonial daggers. Yet, if you're a white person or a person of any other race or ethnicity, you're not allowed to carry them sharp-edged weapons. And then finally, we have the most important aspect of this entire case. You have the fact that an innocent man was murdered, and the police did nothing to help him. All because he had white skin, and the victim, actually the perpetrator, had brown skin. This is another blatant and obvious example of two-tier police enforcement. Digwa was sentenced to life in prison on Monday, concluding a case that the far right have co-opted for its false narrative that British institutions, including the police, are biased against white Britons. Such a narrative collapses under scrutiny. White defendants, on average, serve a lower custodial sentence than other ethnicities. Black prisoners serve a greater proportion of their original sentence than other ethnic groups, while black, Asian, mixed, and other ethnic groups were more likely to be stopped and searched in London last year, according to government statistics. Now, mind you, this is the same government that put out a report in 2020 that a vast majority of group gang sex offenders were white, when the government knew at the time that they were vastly overrepresented within the Pakistani British community. But for years of anemic economic growth, Britain's long history of racism, never mind the fact that it was Great Britain that actually ended the international slave trade, and collapsing support for the country's center-left Labour government, which was elected almost 2 years ago promising sweeping change and is not yet delivered, have created fertile ground for such ideas to take root.
Blood on their hands! Shame on you! Shame on you!
I've drove 4.5 hours to get here. Half of people have, mate. We're fucking tired of you, him, and every police officer in the force. Your left ideology is walking and is ruining the country. We're sick of it. It's disgusting.
Mr. Speaker, we cannot tolerate a situation where false allegations of racism by criminals are believed. We cannot allow the colour of someone's skin to be a consideration in how the police or other public services treat people. And yet this has happened. Just recently, we learned that Valdo Calicone, who murdered 3 people in Nottingham, was not sectioned by mental health professionals because they thought there was, and I quote, an over-representation of young black males in mental health detention. The consequent failure to section Valdo Calicone, in part because he was black, led directly to the murder of 3 innocent people. The head teacher of Axel Radicubana was accused of racist stereotyping when she described Radicubana as a threat to safety, and the risk assessment was watered down. Radicubana, of course, went on to stab and murder 3 young girls at a Southport dance class. But, Mr. Speaker, this has not happened by accident. It is enshrined in the police's own policy documents. The police anti-racism commitment, published in March 2025, by the NPCC and the College of Policing urges police forces to reverse engineer the same arrest rates between ethnic groups, even though the offending rates are different, by treating different ethnic groups differently. Let that sink in for a moment. An official police document actually says people should be treated differently based on the colour of their skin.
And now a quick investigation of the Hampshire and Isle of Wight's Constabulary Race Action Plan for 2024-2026. The plan itself is remarkably contradictory. It states that we will protect all of our communities before going on to specify that we will pursue offenders and deal with offenses that cause the most harm to our ethnic minority communities, with no mention of those crimes which may harm the majority population. Thus, the system shifts to being more concerned by crimes against or claims of crimes against ethnic minorities than against the white British majority. This is also evident in the plan's commitments, which include zero tolerance of racism and ensuring Hampshire and Isle of Wight's constabularies is anti-racist in all it does, understanding and reducing our disproportionality using a reform or explain approach, understanding the impact, trauma, and history of policing ethnic minority communities, improving outcomes support for ethnic minority victims of crime. Each of these commitments had a role to play in Henrik Novaks' seemingly inexplicable arrest. Hampshire and Isle of Wight constabularies, zero tolerance of racism, and being anti-racist means the claims like Gerbit Digwas of being attacked racially by a white person must be treated with the utmost seriousness. Reducing our disproportionality means arresting fewer black and brown people and relatively more white people. Indeed, Hampshire and Isle of Wight Constabulary now run a training program, Inclusion Matters, mandatory for all staff, which they proudly state has resulted in race disproportionality in stop and search being nearly halved in the force area. In practice, this means arriving at scenes where a white boy is lying on the ground saying he's been stabbed, and a Sikh man is standing nearby with a visible scabbard at his waist, arresting the white victim while not bothering to cuff or even search his non-white killer. Similarly, understanding the impact, trauma, and history of policing ethnic minority communities and improving outcomes support for ethnic minority victims of crime both lead to exactly these events. Soft-touch policing for ethnic minority communities, an unwillingness to arrest, and a tendency to believe what the judge called their wicked lies. The result of all these policies, all these mandatory trainings, is that the police officers in this case behaved exactly the system demands. They believe the claim of racism, believe the brown man, treated an all allegation of racism as more important than one of the stabbing, told the white victim he hadn't been stabbed, cuffed and arrested him, left the brown killer free. This is what anti-racism means in practice: anti-white and anti-justice. Make sure you follow me, subscribe, or send me a friend request. And do not forget to like my video.